Hey everyone, and welcome to another reading vlog. I'm looking disheveled in my morning hair, but it is actually not even morning, it's like the middle of the day. But I was supposed to go running around this time. I was supposed to be finished with running more or less around this time, but it has been raining, so I didn't leave yet. And then now I'm thinking that I'm not gonna go running today because my hip has still been acting up a little bit this morning. I've been starting to feel it. And so I think it's probably best not to do it. So let's just take the safe road and, say like we'll go running maybe tomorrow. And if not, I will skip this session again and hopefully get to try again on Monday. If not, it'll be a full rest week and then hopefully I get to start on Thursday. Basically, my physical therapist told me to wait until I don't feel the pain anymore and then just give it another go. So the fact that I'm still feeling the pain today, after it had been gone yesterday, but yesterday I did do like 1K swim and like a few bicycle rides. So the fact that it's all that I'm feeling it again from those two very mild types of exercise mean that I should definitely like be careful a little bit longer. But so it's the 15th of August, midway through the readathon. I haven't finished a book in a week. It's definitely time for me to finish something. What do we have going on right now? We have The Martian by Andy Weir. The reason why I haven't finished anything in a week. This has been my priority book all week. I'm gonna move it to second priority because I'm just not getting through enough of it in a day. I am halfway through at this point in time. So hopefully, if I just keep chipping away at it little by little throughout the week, it will be done by the end of this vlog, hopefully. I have not started The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida, which is my book 6, right, for this readathon. This will be for the best book of 2022 prompt. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I will probably make that sort of like my main book for this weekend, hoping to get quite a chunk done in it. And then I started a book for which I actually don't have a prompt for which it works yet, and that is Fate of the Fallen by Kel Kate. So Fate of the Fallen is a first book in a series. Shrouded with Prophecy is a reread for me because I want to read the sequel to it next month. So that's why I have been listening to that one on my commute. I'm about a third of the way in that one as well. Hey guys, so I just got back from the grocery store, and if there is one talent I have, I gotta show you guys. It is the talent to fit in exactly enough into my trolley so that it doesn't get overwhelmed. Actually, I already removed one thing from that. So I'm quite proud of this talent. I've developed it over the years, and it's a very useless talent, I guess, but at least it means that I don't leave the store and then have to go back in and ask for bags because I didn't properly calculate. But so yeah, sometimes your eyes are bigger than your trolley, but over the years I've managed to gain a good insight into it. But so got a lot of snacks now because I was in desperate need of some snacking opportunities over here. So let's see how long it takes me to get through all of these. Alright, I have just read 256 pages in The Martian. I'm at page 256. I didn't read 256 pages today, but that's where I'm at, which is where I need to be in order to fully count this cluster. So this is the point where I can make the final time the decision whether I'm going to continue or not. I've been tempted throughout to quit it. Now I have like 113 at this point in time pages left to go to finish it. 130 superfluous pages in a book that I'm not really enjoying all that much. I don't know whether I'm gonna DNF or not. I'm gonna leave it out in the open for a little bit. I might try out the audiobook, which apparently you can find on YouTube. So we'll see. But for today, I am definitely giving it a pass. I'm not continuing today. I think part of like my issue with it is just like, as I indicated, I already know quite a lot of what is happening, though there are definitely changes compared to the movie, though I definitely feel in most of the cases that the simplicity that the movie put in there, or like taking away some of the complications, just serves it better. And this book would be over already if it hadn't gone into some of these side quests or side problems. Um, but one of the main things that just really annoys me is like in the log files, it is just like he will talk about a problem will be raised, and he'll be like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? And then, like, immediately after, you start with, I know what I'm gonna do, you know? And this happens so many times throughout the book where it's like, I'll have to think some more about this because I don't know how to tackle it yet. And then the next line will be like, I know what I'm gonna do, which, just doesn't work. Like, it's just stupid, that way. I understand that, like, it works much better in movie setting, because in movie, when you have these issues where he is faced with a problem and then has to figure out a solution for it, at least you'll have a little bit of a like montage of him thinking about the problem, about how to solve it. It doesn't happen in 5 seconds that you get to the solution. There is at least the observation of the thought process, the observation of him having to spend time and effort on that. And even though that is implied by the fact that, he's writing on a different date, it just, because for you no time passes, it just makes it sound like it just makes it seem ridiculous, the fact that we go from, oh, major problem that I don't know how to solve, to immediately being like, oh, I know how to solve it, or oh, I solved this problem. So that just doesn't work for me. And yeah, I'm also quite bored throughout most of the sciencey bits. A lot of the science, I'm just like, in principle, the sort of like essence of it interests me, but the extent of the detail that we go into is like, yeah, you lost me already. And I don't think I care that much about the mathematical calculations of like how much water you need. But so yeah, we'll see. I'll potentially get back to it, but for now, I'm going to switch over to the Seven Moons of Mali Almeida, which I've read some 20 pages or so in. And this is an interesting one because it starts off with our protagonist who has passed away and who is in the sort of like afterlife, or like the, how do you call that? Like the in between, I guess, because he has like 7 days. Wow, it's really coming down now. I don't know whether you can hear the rain in the background, but so he has like 7 days to decide, like, or like 7 days to move on, apparently. But then there are some other influences that can potentially steer him off track, and he might be tempted to stay in the in between. So we'll see. All right, another little Martian rant. But like, as was the case with Project Hail Mary, at this point in time, some of the bits in The Martian just become like using this book to go on thought experiments that don't necessarily serve the plots. You know, in Project Hail Mary, or like the 100 pages or so that I got in there, I definitely got like a lot of the sense of like that it was just like the whole story was just there so that this author could explain science. Whereas with The Martian, I haven't necessarily felt that as much as I did in those first 100 pages of Project Hail Mary. Maybe just because I already knew quite a lot of, the concept of, or like what was going to happen in those first um, almost 300 pages at this point of The Martian. I didn't necessarily, that didn't bother me as much. But there definitely are sections in which I just feel like, sections especially that have been cut out of the movie, where I feel like, what's the point of this? Sure, he needs a lot of science to be able to survive, which has definitely been the case for the very first half or more of this book. But sometimes there are these experiments that he's now just doing, basically not to be bored, I guess, basically to be able to spend his time in some sort of a way. Well, one of these experiments is also just like life threatening. You know, he's got a good thing going and he's threatening his own like safety in one of these experiments just to be able to have a more comfortable um experience afterwards, which I feel just doesn't make any sense. You know, like the logic behind it doesn't make sense. If I mean, he clearly knows the risk that there is involved with this, knowing that he has a way off of this planet now, and knowing that he just like needs to suck it up for I don't know 50 days. Like it doesn't. I don't understand how in any real life situation they would then take that risk rather than be like, okay, I'll just have to suck it up. Let's just not like ruin anything now with any stupid decisions at the last moments. And so, yeah, those things just bother me to some extent because I'm like, you as an author decided to include this bit. And the only reason I can see for him to include this bit is because he wants to, or because he enjoys, like theorizing about how would you go about doing that, and he loves to kind of share that sort of knowledge about, what's possible in space and stuff like that. But it's not like it adds anything to the story. It's not like it adds like any sort of value. It's not a funny bit or anything like that. The only reason why it's there is for the science involved. So that's just like not the good enough reason for me. So yeah, I am now switching to the audio. I told you guys like still today that I was gonna go slowly with The Martian and it's just gonna be my secondary book. But I mean, reverse psychology works very well on me, and apparently it also works on myself. So, the fact that I said that it was gonna be my secondary book means that now it's like the book that I get for the easiest through, I guess. But so yeah, I have been switching to the audio because somebody said it was on YouTube. So that way I have been continuing a little bit further into it. I think tomorrow I'll do another like chunk, not a really chunk, but like I'll probably do it in like 2 days from now. I think Monday evening I should be done with this book. So yeah, that's it. It is done, guys. I have finished The Martian by Andy Weir. Now, I did like get through it a lot quicker when I figured out that there was an audiobook on YouTube, so that one definitely helped, even though like I don't necessarily think it's a great audiobook. Some of the voices annoyed me, but it got me through it, and then I could like combine it with doing a puzzle, and so then I could get through more pages because like I had something else to occupy my mind as well, that can kind of help with like otherwise if you're not really enjoying a story, it's more difficult to push through, whereas with an audiobook then you're just like it's a little bit more passive to some extent then. um yeah, I mean, it was okay. I gave it a 2.5 star rating or something like that in the end. Towards the ending, there were some more changes from the movie, which made it a little bit more of a pleasant experience. Though, as I said, some of those decisions then didn't make any sense. To then, in the later point, there's a decision he wants to make where he's like, "No, I won't do that because I won't risk that." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly my point. I don't understand why you did that other thing because, why would you risk it?" But yeah, there was something towards the end that, like, something about the end that also I think I enjoyed in the book. I wouldn't say I enjoyed that more compared to the movie. It makes sense, but it also makes sense for them to have left it out of the movie. But there are just certain reasons why at certain point in time he once again is more sort of like up to his own devices. He once again has to kind of figure things out for himself without much support, as we've seen for the beginning of the book. And so I appreciate and understand why that choice is made in the book, but I also at the same time understand why the movie is like, yeah, let's just not add that complication and that sort of like segue to the story again. But yeah, I liked seeing those two choices, and kind of like understanding the need for both of them. But so yeah, what I did definitely think the movie did better, which I kind of found sad about the book, is that the book ends super abruptly. Basically, like the movie at least has like a sort of like montage in which you kind of see what happens to all of these, or like which kind of implies what happens to all of these people after this mission, whereas the book just ends. No. So yeah, I'm done with The Martian finally, and I've just looked at the poll results for my book for prompt number 7. It did not go the way that I wanted to, but on the other hand, it went the way that I've always, before the start of the month, wanted it to go. So in that sense, I'm happy with it, and it was also the expected outcome. Though it's not exactly that case because it is a tie. So it is a tie between disability representation, which is the prompt that I always wanted to win, and that I expected to win as well. And then the other one that won is nature cover. Now, if I had a book that had disability representation and a nature cover, I could combine them, but I don't have. And I could, of course, look for it, but I prefer to finally get something off of my physical TBR. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to choose a book with disability representation on my TBR. It is Disability Pride Month, so that's the reason why I'm prioritizing that. It is also like I love reading books with disability representation. And I'm going to go for So Lucky by Nicola Griffith. And the reason why I'm going for that one over the other book that I have on my TBR is simply because the audiobook is on script. I need to take it easy on myself for a little bit because I've been feeling like I'm struggling to get through these physical books. And so for The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida, which I'm currently 100 pages in, I don't have an audiobook and I don't want to spend an Audible credit on it. I prefer to spend those on like super long epic high fantasies. So I'm gonna have to kind of like find my physical reading mojo again for this book. So I felt like I'll go easy on myself, and for the next prompt I'll make sure that I have something that has an audiobook for it. So went with that. If it would have been nature cover, I would have gone for Upstream, which is an essay collection. What were the other options? I forgot to look at them before I updated you guys. So Mood Read would have been the book that I'm currently already reading, which is Fate of the Fallen. I'm hoping that at some point I will fit it in. But if not, like at the end of the month, I might just like not give you guys choices anymore, and then like at the final day, like log a few things that I've read throughout the month that didn't fit your choices. So the two other options were Animal on the Cover, for which I had set aside the family Chow, and then Standalone, for which I actually hadn't put aside a book yet because I actually thought that I didn't have that option until I was actually creating the poll. But yeah, I didn't win, so who cares? So I'm gonna upload the next poll now so that I can get a result by the time that I finish either The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida or So Lucky. And so it's only like 180 pages, so it's not gonna take me that long. Though like I don't want to prioritize it. I'm going to be listening to it now as I'm cooking, which will already get me quite a chunk into it, I guess. But it's definitely the intention to make sure that I get a lot further into Mali Almeida by the time that I finish So Lucky. Otherwise I will wait a little bit before I pick up the next book, unless of course it's Fate of the Fallen that wins. But I want to make sure that I'm not falling behind on the Seven Moons of Mali Almeida, because I'll have to log it first before I can count anything afterwards. So it doesn't make sense for me to like fall behind on it, because then maybe at some point in the month I'll get to the stressful situation where I have to quickly finish Mali Almeida, or otherwise I lose out on a ton of points that I've actually already scored with reading but haven't been able to log yet. Alright, I'm at that point where I have no idea what I already told you guys in this vlog, if I even started this vlog already. Did I update you guys about The Martian? If I didn't, I have finished The Martian in the meantime. And I guess if I didn't, editing me now needs to jump in and actually talk about The Martian. But so, we are already Thursday. I've been a really bad vlogger again, because I feel like if I updated you guys, it must have been like early in the week, maybe even in the weekend only. But so, cut my my hair in the meantime. On Monday, I did go like for a running session to kind of like see how it would go. And like I did have the pain after my running session, but it did disappear pretty quickly. Like the day after was already like really manageable again. And so I did go again for a run this morning. I went slower again, which for my heart rate at least is better. But I also like have the pain again today, so I'm gonna be hoping that tomorrow is better. In any case, I should really do some exercises because I think it's like the um glutes, is that what you call them in English? I think those are just too weak and that is causing the issue. But I am close to finishing some books. So I haven't not talked about The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida yet, I think. So this is a Sri Lankan book and it is about a guy called Mali Almeida, shocker, who basically at the start of this book finds himself in the afterlife. And so he is given 7 moons before he kind of needs to move on. And so in that time, we will be following him as he's kind of trying to leave a legacy, so to speak, because he was a photographer and apparently he has some damning pictures that will shed a light on what is going on in Sri Lanka with like police forces, for example, and like the conflict between different parties involved in this national landscape. And yeah, it is told in the second person, which is weird and definitely took me a little bit to get into. So I'm very happy that at some point I did switch to the audiobook because the audiobook for me just works a lot better. Because, you know, it's just like, I don't know, there's just something about it that made it difficult for me to kind of focus on it and continue going. But so now that I have the audiobook, I'm making good progress in it and I should be finishing it tonight. Now, this is for the prompt of best book of 2022 because I have a few people that I know absolutely love it, and then also a channel that I follow, The Lonesome Reader. He also included it in his best books of 2022. However, unfortunately for me, it's not going to be one of my favorites unless it's like has an absolute shocker of an ending now. I've definitely enjoyed going through it, but there's also something about it that, you know, just doesn't grip me to a huge extent. There are definitely scenes and moments and brutalities that are described that, you know, are really impactful, but overall, I'm not like completely carried away by the book or anything like that, as I need to be in order for this to be like a 5 star for me. It is to some extent very reminiscent of Human Acts by Han Kang, which is also a book that has that sort of structure of, you know, you're following people who have passed away and then they are looking back on what has happened to them, and you're kind of seeing survivors through the eyes of the ghost, or at least I believe, maybe I'm making that up. I believe that that is what happens in the first book. I believe you kind of see it from the perspective of somebody who has passed away. Or maybe I'm making that up. But so, yeah, I'm going to be continuing that throughout the evening. And then I probably will also be finishing the book for the seventh prompt, which is Disability Representation. That is So Lucky by Nicola Griffith. This is a book about a woman who is basically, she's working at this nonprofit organization that, you know, supports people with AIDS. And then she is diagnosed with MS. And so in that new reality, she is trying to find, you know, her place in life, dealing with ableism in the people around her, ableism in part as well in herself, of course. Internalized ableism is definitely a thing, especially if you're newly diagnosed, I can imagine. And so, yeah, I've been going. And so, yeah, I've been going through that. That is probably semi-autobiographical because the author herself is also an MS patient. And yeah, I am really enjoying that one a whole lot. So that one actually might be, is it 5 star material? I don't know. It might be 4 star, like a high 4 star. But so yeah, those are the two books that I'm hoping to finish tonight. I am also very close to finishing a third book, but we will talk about that later because I still don't have a prompt to fit that into. Right, guys, so yesterday evening during sprints I did finish like one book and then I finished the second one right after. So I finished The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida. I really enjoyed this one, but as I indicated earlier, I don't really have much of an investment with it. I think it has to do with the writing style, which I can appreciate for being nice, but is a type of writing style that for me just doesn't really fully work. or it could just have been my mood, because I definitely enjoyed it a whole ton more once I got the audiobook. So my recommendation for this one would be an audiobook. And then I also finished So Lucky by Nicola Griffiths, which is another one that I really enjoyed. This one I enjoyed more, though towards the ending, it was also taking some turns that just like were less interesting to me, or like were like I wasn't really sure where she was going with those types of. Uh, I wasn't really sure like where she was going, and in the end, I enjoyed where it ended up, but I was finding myself like less engaged with that section of the book. But yeah, it's definitely a nice one, and if you want to read more books with disability representation, if you haven't, like if you want to know more about the experience of somebody living with MS, then this is also definitely a nice example for you to reach for. But so, I have now received my new assignment. New assignment is to read a book with a non-human POV for the red prompt, which will be A Diary of Blood by S.D. Gibson. So the non-human POV here is a vampire. I was kind of hoping for something more like flashy, something that doesn't even look like a human. But the ones that I had for that were just too long compared to this. Is just like a tree space cluster. I only need to read 150 pages, so I wasn't going to go for one of those options that's like 400 pages long, because I had that would have been the case for the ones that I knew of that are a little bit more interesting. But for this one, we'll have to go over what you guys didn't vote for. I think what you guys left to decide is like um, Buff. Buffy is one of the things that you left to decide. Um, Setting Water, I think, was one of the options here, for which I had Girl from the Sea. For Buffy was for the orange prompt, which I don't actually remember anymore what this was at this point in time. So who knows? Favorite author was the one that was in the lead in the beginning, and I wanted to have, because then it would have been Fate of the Fallen. And queer rep for that one, I had originally written down Saga by like the comic book, but I was a little bit unhappy with that choice, and would probably have switched it out if it had one, because I don't know whether the queer characters can really be considered prominent enough. They're definitely like a few side characters, but I wouldn't consider them like the main characters in this one, so I would have probably changed it out for something else by the time that it got chosen. But so, Diary of Blood it is. I was kind of not hoping for this one to win, just because of the fact that I wanted to read it more like in October or something like that. But aside from that, I'm very curious to see what this one is like, because I know it got a lot of hype. It's also one of those books that was originally self-published and then picked up because of how much hype it has been receiving. So curious to see what my reaction to this one is gonna be. Good morning. It is Saturday morning, meaning I'm going to wrap up this vlog again. I did still finish something yesterday, so I finished Fate of the Fallen by Calcade, which I don't have a prompt for yet. So I'll have to count it somewhere later in this month. This is a reread for me, so nothing surprising in this reread, because I already liked this book a lot the first time. I don't like it as much as I like her other series. So His Dark Tidings is one of like my favorite series. So that one I love a little bit more than I love this one. But I'm very excited to dive into the sequel for this one next month for Magical Readathon. But yeah, in Fate of the Fallen, we are following Aslo, who is a forester who's just living his life, and like mocking around with his best friend. However, it turns out that his best friend is actually the chosen one and has to go and set out on a quest. And so he is willing to follow his friend on this quest. However, like 5 minutes into this book or so, his friend ends up dying, and so now the prophecy cannot be fulfilled, and the world is about to die. Um, I what I really enjoy about Calcade's protagonists is that there are these types of protagonists that are really like good at whatever they try. You know, they're the type of like Renaissance men that can do whatever they set their mind to. And while they're all sort of like grumpy guys who seek solitude, they're also very charismatic and absolutely draw people to them. But which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed that dynamic of them being like loners who cannot help but attract huge crowds to them. But so yeah, I really enjoyed this book and I'm very much looking forward to the sequel. That's more or less what I did yesterday. I also watched two movies. It was a bank holiday here because it's the Independence Day of Belgium, and I don't care about that day, but I really enjoyed a bank holiday. So I watched Speed for nostalgia purposes. I don't actually remember how. I was watching like an episode of Night Watch, I think it is. I didn't get to the end of the episode because it just made me want to watch Speed, and then I looked to see if like one of the platforms that I have access to had Speed on it, and Disney Plus did. So I rewatched Speed, a really fun movie to watch, and it had been so long that I also like didn't fully remember every section of it anymore, so that was also fun. And then I also watched Emma because I have it from the library and I need to return it 2 days. So I really enjoyed it. It is my least favorite Austen. I find Emma to be a very obnoxious character, but in this version of the movie, I actually quite liked her. I don't know whether that is just because I like this actress or not, but it was an okay time with this movie. You know, I still find this to be a very annoying book story to kind of consume because it gives you so much secondhand embarrassment for Emma, who's just doing wrong all the time. But I still had a good time with it. It had beautiful cinematography. And like the father character is played by Bill Nighy in this one, and he's just like perfect for that role. So yeah, that's what I did yesterday, and today I have a package coming in, and so I'm hoping it arrives relatively early so I can still do other stuff today. But you know, otherwise I'm just stuck indoors reading, which you know there are worse things in the world. But so yeah, with that I'm gonna round off this vlog and go and get started on the next one. But so yeah, see you guys for next vlog or another video in the meantime or reading sprints. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and see you guys for the next one.